Les villes sont aussi sur le front concernant les changements climatiques. Si on parle de la gestion des déchets, développement de pistes cyclables, transport en commun, la lutte contre les îlots de chaleur, tout ça leur revient. Dans notre circonscription, nous avons un projet majeur, une dalle parc, qui consisterait en une passerelle verte au-dessus de l'autoroute 20 et qui permettrait aux piétons et aux cyclistes de rejoindre la Chine et les autres quartiers du sud-ouest. Notre circonscription jouxte également le parc Meadowbrook et le site de l'ancien Hippodrome, deux lieux qui sont importants pour notre communauté et au fort potentiel de verdissement. Comment comptez-vous collaborer efficacement avec les villes et soutenir leurs efforts en lien avec l'environnement et le climat? Quels seraient vos engagements pour les projets de verdissement dans et autour de notre circonscription? Cities are also on the front lines of climate change. Waste management, development of bike paths, public transit, fight against heat islands. In our writing, we have a major project, a park overpass that consists of a green bridge over Highway 20 that would allow pedestrians and cyclists to reach La Chine and other southwestern boroughs. Our riding also borders Meadowbrook Park and the former Blue Bonnet site, places that are important to our community and have great potential for greening. How do you plan to work effectively with cities and support their environmental and climate-related efforts? What commitments would you make to greening projects in and around our riding?
This is a phenomenal question and hits the heart of what we're talking about right now. So there are territorial inequities, and there are a lot of areas such as NDG and around NDG that have the possibility of expanding its access to green spaces. And during the pandemic, during the COVID-19 pandemic, what we found was 86% of the population felt that having access to green spaces helped with their mental health. It also helps for new immigrants to properly integrate into their communities. It also reduces health risks, reduces risk of cancer. So this is a critical issue, not just of the environment, environmental health, but of human health. So the main issue right now is Mount Royal is overclogged. We have too many people going there. Sometimes you might have to even leave your borough. So as we mentioned from the very beginning is Parc Dalle that is owned by the Ministry of Transport. This has to be going to the provincial or municipal government to be able to manage this space. And that space could then be, as you mentioned, connected to all kinds of different boroughs, but more importantly, establish a true ecosystem with residents of NDG, with nature and everyone around. Also, Hippodrome is not just about the environment, but also social and affordable housing. I know this is a little bit beyond that, but this is a critical space. We can get around 7,500 affordable and social homes, which is critical. Right now, we have 24,000 people waiting for social housing. And in NDG, I would love to say, let's reserve some space for green spaces, but we don't have any space, let alone for social housing or green space. So places like Parc Dalle and Meadowbrook, these are critical areas that we should invest in. And how do we do that? Well, we are the only party that's advocating for 20% of the QST that's generated on the island of Montreal will stay here. That's about $2 billion a year. Donc, même si on voudrait établir des écosystèmes, s'assurer que la rivière à Meadowbrook is clean and all these things, we need a budget. And that budget is tough to come by. So by voting for Bloc Montreal, you're voting for a party that wants to put more money in the pockets of the municipality so we can invest and actually have these parks come to life for all of us to enjoy.
I think the number one commitment of the Green Party of Quebec for NDG in terms of green infrastructure would be the Dalle Park Bridge. It's a project that would connect the Falaise Saint-Jacques to the other side of the canal, something that's very important, something that's been promised by the government for a long time. I've been working to protect the Falaise Saint-Jacques since around 2015. I've been to many protests. I've heard recently that there's some contaminants in there. There's some people's dogs who have gotten sick from being there. These things need to be cleaned up. It doesn't make any sense that in what we call an eco-territory in Montreal, that dogs are being poisoned by garbage that's been left behind. We need to take care of these green spaces, not just through having people come out on their spare time and volunteer, but there should be funding in place to decontaminate the Falaise Saint-Jacques and to treat this eco-territory with the respect that it deserves. We also need to work on heat islands in NDG. NDG is somewhat of a concrete jungle. There's a lot of areas that get really hot. and we don't have that much green space. So we need to make sure that we're modernizing the city, that we're planting trees on the side of roads, that we're taking back certain space from cars and transforming it into green space, into space for active transport and that sort of thing. And of course, there's a lot that the city of Montreal can do, and I wish that the city of Montreal was doing a little bit more, or rather a lot more. But they also need the support of the province to be able to do so. On a besoin de donner aux villes du Québec les moyens de s'attaquer aux problèmes environnementaux. On veut aussi donner aux villes la possibilité de dire non à tout projet de développement qui ne sont pas dans leurs intérêts. Juste dans la dernière semaine, je suis allé à 2 différents sites miniers, un au Mont-Rigaud et l'autre à Lac-des-Plages, où les municipalités s'opposent à l'activité minière, mais le Québec va de l'avant, peu importe l'opposition des municipalités locales. Donc, si on veut réinvestir dans la démocratie et réinvestir dans l'environnement, il faut donner aux villes le pouvoir de dire non aux projets qui sont néfastes pour l'environnement et qui ne sont pas dans leurs intérêts. Et bien sûr, les villes là, sont au cœur là, de la lutte contre les changements climatiques et pour la protection de l'environnement. Et un gouvernement du Parti vert du Québec va être là pour les soutenir sur toute la ligne.
Great question. So I just want to preface this by saying, as a parent, as an educator, and as a longstanding environmentalist, I am passionate about promoting green spaces for the many physical, mental, cultural, spiritual value that they hold, but also connecting it to education. I think we could be doing a lot more in promoting our green spaces and connecting to environmental education and what's called place-based learning, not only for our youth in our local schools, but also for all people in our riding. We have a lot to learn through green spaces. So I want to start by commending the grassroots citizens movement that have been working to preserve the Meadowbrook Golf Course as a green space. And we know that accessing nature is good for our physical, mental health, and other forms of health as well. And we need green spaces to foster a love of the environment and a desire to protect it for young people and other generations as well, because I believe in working in partnership across generations and not paying lip service or passing the buck to youth. We need to do this together. Right now, the golf course is at the private property, but the City of Montreal and Municipality of Côte-Saint-Luc have taken steps to protect Meadowbrook, and I look forward to working with local activists to make the dream of Meadowbrook Park a reality. On the Parc Dalle, tomorrow I'm going to the inauguration of the Falaise Saint-Jacques, just FYI. But certainly active transportation is a key part of the fight against climate change. The Dalle Park would connect NDG to Lachine, as you mentioned, and to the Sud-West via an active transit link for cyclists and pedestrians. And the MTQ has promised we would benefit from the Dalle Park once Turcotte was finished. So I will continue to work, should I be elected, to work to ensure that Dalle Park remains a priority and a reality.
Sur le sujet du parc Meadowbrook, la falaise Saint-Jacques, la Dalle Park, vraiment, si je suis élue le 3 octobre prochain, je m'engage à tout faire pour protéger donc, ces espaces verts-là, donc le parc Meadowbrook, la falaise Saint-Jacques. Je pense que ce sont des causes très importantes. Je l'ai mentionné, je suis moi-même résidente de Saint-Raymond, donc la Dalle Park, pour moi, à titre de résidente moi-même du secteur qui fait du vélo, c'est un projet qui m'anime beaucoup et qui, je pense, est très important. Donc, sur cette question-là, c'est ma position. Pour ce qui est de l'ancien hippodrome, plus généralement, en fait, Québec solidaire pense qu'il faut reconstruire des quartiers en ville où le logement est abordable. Donc, quand on en a l'opportunité, il faut le faire. Donc, il faut prioriser le logement social et le logement abordable sur des sites comme celui de l'ancien hippodrome. Par rapport à ma collaboration avec les villes, certainement, c'est très important d'avoir cette proximité-là et cette collaboration-là. On le sait, Notre-Dame-de-Grâce vit déjà les contre-coups du climat avec les vagues de chaleur, par exemple. Donc, il nous faut un plan ambitieux pour verdir, rafraîchir le quartier. Je m'engage également à collaborer directement avec le nouveau groupe de travail en environnement du Conseil communautaire de NDG pour que la solution puisse faire du chemin et prioriser le transport collectif et actif. Notamment, ça passe par le soutien financier au développement d'un réseau cyclable qui est sécuritaire pour que les petites familles n'aient pas peur d'utiliser les pistes cyclables dans NDG.